The film opens up with homeless boy named Big Mike. Mike is a teenager with unusual size. He has been in various foster homes, but for some reasons he ended up on the streets. Luckily, a compassionate person takes Big Mike to Coach Cotton. He asks him to allow Big Mike play for him. Coach Cotton vouch for Big Mike in the school administration so he can be enrolled as a new student. Considering his sport abilities, regardless of his home background, Big Mike gets accepted and begins school, but he needs to catch up with his grades before he can start playing football. If he works hard, he has a chance to turn his life around and become a professional footballer. One day, when Big Mike is at school, the principal informs him that his dad has passed on. Big Mike seems not too touched because he wasn't close to him. At school, Big Mike doesn't understand anything in class. He is not so good at reading. Big Mike meets a friend at school. His name is SJ. The little boy seems too cool and welcoming. Later after school, SJ's mom comes to pick him up from school and sees him talking to Big Mike. She asks him what the name of the boy he was talking to is, and he replies, Big Mike. After some time, SJ and his family are moving from the school Thanksgiving ceremony at night. While they are driving home, they see Big Mike walking alone alongside the road in the middle of the rain. SJ's mom tells her husband to stop the car. She approaches Big Mike and asks him where he is going. He replies to the gym, and she asks again, do you have a place to stay? Big Mike says no, and then she tells him to come along with her to her home and spend the night. On reaching home, he is offered the couch to sleep on. Later, SJ's mom doesn't know whether she is making the right choice by bringing him along with her family, a kid she barely knows. In the morning, Big Mike folds all the beddings he was given by SJ's mom, cleans the whole place and then leaves. When SJ's mom comes in the sitting room, she is surprised. She sees Big Mike has arranged the whole place and he hasn't stolen anything as they had anticipated with her husband the previous night. SJ's mom runs to find him before he leaves. She calls him and asks him to stay for a while. They have prepared a family dinner together and Big Mike stays for the dinner. The next day, SJ's mom offers to buy Big Mike some clothes. He has only one shirt and one trouser. He moves with all his belonging in a yellow small plastic bag. They go for shopping and Big Mike gets some new clothes for himself. At school, the teachers have figured out how to make Big Mike understand whatever they are teaching. Since he is not good at reading, the teachers take the trouble to teach him one-on-one by explaining to him verbally in all subjects. SJ's mom asks Big Mike if he wants to stay with them so they can arrange a room for him rather than sleeping on the couch, and he replies that he doesn't want to go anywhere else. Later, SJ's mom arranges a room for him, and Big Mike tells her that he has never owned a bed before. This made SJ's mom so emotional. After some time, Big Mike eventually improves his grades enough that he can play football at school. However, Big Mike appears to be hesitant to use his strength and size while practicing, and little SJ volunteers to be his personal coach. The practice session seems to be so productive, but Big Mike is still hesitant to use his strength on fellow teammates. At home, the family seems to be happy in the presence of Big Mike, and Mrs. Toohey later goes out with her rich female friends for dinner. They start mocking Big Mike. They ask her if she is safe with a black kid and her daughter in the same house. Mrs. Toohey tells them to respect her decisions. In disbelief, she is forced to leave. She goes back home and asks her daughter Anne if she is comfortable living with Big Mike in the same house. She says she has no problem with it. Big Mike then approaches Mrs. Toohey, requesting to help him get a driver's license. Sarcastically, she laughs, asking him what he needs a driving license for. He doesn't even own a car. Big Mike replies to her that he wants to have something he owns with his name on it. Mrs. Toohey then confronts her husband, telling him that she wants to adopt Big Mike. They both agree on it. Mrs. Toohey then looks for Big Mike's mom, asking for permission to adopt his son. She finds out that she has 12 children, but she doesn't know where they are. In an emotional conversation with her, she agrees, and Big Mike legally becomes part of the Toohey family. As their present to him, they bought him a car, and he was so excited. SJ asks his mom to go with Big Mike to pick a new game that had been released. His mom accepts, and on their way, they get into a very terrible accident. Their mom is called as soon as possible. According to the paramedics, a kid of SJ's size would not have survived such an accident. It was a miracle he was still alive. Because of Big Mike's high protective instincts, he put his arm up to protect SJ, and Big Mike's arm is severely injured. Later, Big Mike, while in football training, he is not doing so well. His now new mom, Miss Toohey, comes in the middle of the training and tells him to treat his teammates as family, the same way he saved SJ from being hit by an airbag in the accident. As a quarterback, you should be offensive and protect your teammates like family from the opposition. After the jazz, Big Mike improves, and Coach Cotton asks his mom what she said to him. Mrs. Toohey tells the coach that Big Mike tested 98% in protective instincts, and he should use that to make him a better quarterback. In his fast game, Big Mike was a bit nervous. The opponent team is leading. They start to mock him, calling him black and that he shouldn't be in the same playground with them. He keeps his cool, until he is fouled and the referee does not stop the game. His couch tries to argue with the referee, and in his words he mentions that these boys are like family to me. When Big Mike hears that the coach is regarding him as family, he goes back after timeout and he plays at his best. They go on to lead the game after Big Mike calls the play in the huddle. SJ records a video clip when Big Mike is protecting his teammates that he pushes the other player out of the field. SJ sends it to different colleges. He gets more than 20 college offers, but the problem is his grades are still not reaching the standards of a college scholarship, which is 2.5 GPA, and Big Mike is at 1.7. Mrs. Tohi decides to get a tutor for him in efforts for him to up his grades. Coaches of different colleges continued visiting the Tohi family, offering Big Mike scholarships and variety of other benefits. SJ and Big Mike are also free to make their own requests. SJ mentions that he will be missing his brother a lot. He asks if there are plans for him to visit his brother and how often. The coach replies, all the time. He also told SJ that he would be leading the team to the field in their opening game. Mike's school wins the private championship, and he decides he will join either Mississippi Ole or Tennessee. Leaving all other colleges, Big Mike, while attending a press conference, has to make his decision on which university he will attend. He chooses Mississippi after his tutor scared him about Tennessee the previous night, claiming that they bury dead bodies underneath their playground. Later, his grades improve, and he hits the expected grades in all the subjects except for one, which is literature. He gets a D, and he is told to write an essay at the end of the year that will help him improve it. Mr. Tohi helps him figure out what he will write about. He writes about the Valley of Death. Basically, he writes about his entire life, the courage, the honor, the perseverance, consistency, and a lot that he has passed through in his life to where he is now. His teacher was impressed by his essay and he passes him. To be eligible for a college scholarship, you need at least 2.5 GPA. Big Mike scores a 2.52 in his exams and he graduated ready to enroll into Mississippi University. While at home, when they are showing him the school campus, where he will be sleeping and where he will be going for lunch, Mrs. Tohi receives a call from the assistant director for the NCAA. She requests to ask Big Mike some questions. Mrs. Tohi goes with him and the lady insists that she wants to talk to him alone. She asks him if he knows that the Tauis attended the University of Mississippi and they pay a lot of donations to the same university. She asks again if he is aware that his tutor attended the same university. She also pays donation to the university. Big Mike says no. The lady goes ahead and tells him that the NCAA is investigating whether the Tauis did all what they did as a plan to ensure that he played football at Mississippi University, the same university that they all attended, and that if it's the case they wanted to prevent it from happening. Because in the future people will be adopting kids with sports abilities and use them to their advantage, make them attend schools of their own choices. After this talk, Big Mike is convinced that the Tauis are just taking advantage of him and his sport abilities to make him attend the university they dearly love. Big Mike gets out of the room, so furious and heartbroken. The lady made him believe that the Tauis are just using him but don't love him as he thinks. He had finally settled in, thinking he had got a family, but from the conversation with the NCAA lady, he doesn't want anything to do with the Tauis. Mrs. Tohi too was so heartbroken. She blamed herself for not letting him make his own choices when it came to choosing a university. All they did with her husband was preparing him to attend Ole Miss Mississippi University. In an emotional conversation with her husband, Mrs. Tauis asks her husband if she is a bad person, and the husband replies that all you did was help a homeless kid, gave him a bed when he didn't have one, fed him and made him likable. If it weren't for you, there would be no Big Mike. On the other hand, Big Mike has gone back to the streets. He starts looking for his biological mother. Along the way, he meets with the tough hood guys who welcome him back to Hurt Village, where he used to live with her mom before. They offer him a beer. They promise him a spot in their gang, convince him that all he needs was to start making his own choices, not to be told what to do. They start mocking his new family. They insinuate that Big Mike has had sexual relationship with Ann, Mrs. Tohi's daughter. This rouses Big Mike's protective instincts. Gets annoyed. He shoves him into a wall and knocks his gun aside and runs away. Big Mike realizes the Tauis are now his family. In the morning, Mrs. Tohi comes looking for him in the hood. She finds the guy that provoked Big Mike into a fight. She asks him if he has seen Big Mike, and he says that he was with him the previous day and that he should watch his back because when he finds him, he will beat him up. Mrs. Tauis stands up for her son and tells the guy to leave her son or else he will not like what will come next. Mike calls her and she asks to pick him up where he had gone, and she goes to pick her son. They sit down along the road to have a conversation. Mrs. Tohi asks Big Mike how he survived all he had been through. He replies, "When I was little and something awful happened, my mom would tell me to close my eyes. She was trying to prevent me from seeing all the bad things her dude was doing. When it was all done, she would tell me she would count up to 3, and I would open my eyes and she would say, 'The past is gone, the world is a good place, and it's all going to be okay.'" Mrs. Tohi then asks Big Mike to make his own decision on which school he will attend. He goes back to the NCAA lady and tells her he wants to join Mississippi because it's where all his family goes to school too. Big Mike later joins Mississippi Ole. became an all-time American and later was drafted into the NFL. SJ on the other hand received all that was promised to him. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Have a great day.